food's really good.
Yeah, thanks for coordinating all this.
Yeah, thank
No
you.
problem. I have a lot of fun doing
They're
this.
pros at this point.
We pretend to be. We fake it till we make it. Mike, am I in the shot? I should be.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. I have to lean forward.
Your hand is in.
My hand. My hand or my hat?
Oh, we're live.
Oh.
Well, I'll move the camera while you're saying hello.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our April edition of Dinner with the Devs at Schell Games. I am your host, Dwayne, with the marketing team. Mike is moving the camera to make sure that everybody's in the shot.
Yeah.
So we have a bunch of exciting guests with us today, our interns and our HR manager, human resources manager. So, well, we encourage a lot of questions. So please, about the intern process, hiring process, well, some of it. Let us know, about what questions you'd like to ask the interns, about the type of projects that they've been working on. How much they loved working at Schell Games. We're going to give them a 1 to 5, 1 being good and 5 being absolutely awesome. So yeah, no bias there. So that's enough of me. We're going to start on the far side, and they're going to introduce who they are, what department they've been working in, and we'll take from there.
Great. I'll start. I'm Lauren Reed. I'm the HR manager here. Been on board with Schell Games for 3 years, so I'm full-time. I'm part of the operations group, and our whole mission is to support the development group and remove obstacles so they can be their best creative selves. So.
Yeah. I'm Carl, an engineer intern working in Schell Games, starting from January until now. So I'm a spring co-op intern.
Did you say engineer?
Engineer, yeah.
Super easy.
I'm Melissa, and I'm a production intern. And like Carl, I've been here since January. I think we've all been here since
Yeah, we're all
January.
trying together. We're all gonna just repeat it, yeah.
We could just, yeah.
This is our spring cohort.
Yeah. So my name is Jabran. I'm a game design intern here at Schell Games, and yeah, I've started with all these guys as well too.
Hi, I'm Rajiv. I'm an engineering intern at Schell Games too.
Awesome.
Cool. And again, Dwayne, marketing team. Maxine said hello, Lauren.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, Maxine.
And Maxine, we really appreciate Mike's help because he's the brains behind this whole operation. So it couldn't be done without him. All right. So first question. So what got you guys interested in the games industry or making, designing, engineering video games? Who'd like to start us off? How about Carl? Go ahead.
You look ready, Carl.
Carl looks ready to go.
Carl looks like ready. Yeah. I started playing games since I was 3 years old. So game industry is definitely my favorite industry in this world.
Really?
Yes, really.
Wow.
Yeah. At that time,
You're a prodigy.
Yeah. Yeah, at the time I was playing in Windows 95. Yeah, that's a really
Classic.
So classic.
Yeah, and my dream is become an indie game developer, and I think Schell Games is definitely the best place I can come. And,
Nice.
yeah, because I know a lot of including engineers, designer, artists, and they are all very. Some of them are indie game developers themselves. Yeah, and the whole production of the Schell Games are very awesome. The project managed by Melissa, our producer, managed very well. So we don't have to work until very late. Like normally, the game industry will be very intense. Yeah. I also worked at another game company before. It was very intense. Yeah. So the life is very good, and I really enjoy it. So.
And you like Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I really like it. Yeah, and Pittsburgh, acceptable weather. Yeah, everything is awesome.
Yeah, being in Pittsburgh, you kind of just reserve that, we're going to have, winter, fall,
In construction.
and construction. That's it. Those are seasons in Pittsburgh. We talked about that last month, so too.
It's still going, because until like a week ago it was snowing.
It's
So-
true. We had intermittent snow. It's great.
That's right.
Pittsburgh will keep
It's
us on
been
our
pretty
toes.
though.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
good.
true.
I think it's a lot
We
like
have,
India.
and we have such a great view on the river, so.
Yeah.
No, I
Alright,
think it's a
well,
lot like India. In India, you
Yeah.
only have summer. Here, you just have winter.
That's right.
Degrees of it, right?
Rajiv has adjusted to this so well, because the rest of us show up at work in these incredibly bundled jackets, and Rajiv just shows up in a
Yeah,
sweater.
sorry.
I've seen it. Yeah, like,
Oh, that's awesome. All right, so who's next?
I guess if you want to go down the line. I actually didn't grow up as a huge gamer. I wasn't allowed to have a gaming platform when I was little. Like my parents let us have Game Boys in the car so that my brother and I wouldn't fight.
Yep.
And then other than that, like I didn't play games. But when I came to the ETC, which the Entertainment Technology Center at Carnegie Mellon, although people go into tons of different kinds of entertainment there, the way that you get started, the immersion semester is just all about gaming because it's a unified experience that everyone can contribute to no matter your background. So we all just developed games and it was a ton of fun, and that ended up really changing how I viewed moving forward with my career, because the collaborative nature of making games was just incredible. So yeah, ended up here as a result.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm more like Carl in that sense, where I started playing games when I was very young. I actually wanted to be a movie director first when I was really young, because I enjoyed
I
watching
can
movies.
totally see
I don't know
that.
why. It's funny. There's someone else in our department who is actually doing movies. It's like, but the thing is, I gravitated towards games because of the interactive nature of things. And I really enjoyed making that experience. And part of design is like deconstructing that a little bit. And so, an opportunity to work and actually do that over here has been awesome for me. So
Very cool.
I've always loved making games.
Cool, cool. So, really quick, with talking about the weather, our buddy Baron Von Bryce, it's good to have you back, Baron. He says, better than Canada, I describe the seasons here as dry winter, winter, wet winter, and construction.
Fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, so touche.
Yeah.
You win. You
Where
win.
in Canada?
Yeah, we're in Canada, Baron. Yeah, let us know.
It's a pretty big
So-
country, so.
All right, go ahead, Rajiv.
Yeah. For me, I used to be a software engineer before coming into the game industry. Right out of undergrad, I worked for a software company that made enterprise applications and stuff. So while that was all right, I mean, there were a lot of interesting challenges to deal with and everything, but I felt that I was not being a part of something creative. And so that's how I started making games. So so on the side, I was just messing around with like simple HTML5 type things and trying to make small games on my own. So that's how my intro to the game industry was. And I found an indie game company in India that I joined them, worked there for a while, and I heard about the ETC at Carnegie Mellon, and that's how I'm here. So that's been my.
Yeah. Very cool. And then you're part of the panel, Lauren, so what about you?
I will say I never considered myself a gamer until I worked here. So I think I talked about this last week at our panel. I've had a very sporadic relationship with gaming. When I was younger, I would play on the computer with the games that came with our Gateway 2000 when they came to my box. Yeah.
Nice.
So I played a lot of pinball, Minesweeper, a lot of solitaire, Wheel of Fortune. And then as my brother got really into gaming, he bought a Nintendo 64, and so then it was 1080 and Zelda and Mario Kart, of course. And so I really enjoyed them. And then I think I said grew up last week. And I really I loved reading too when I was younger. So when I went to college for an English liberal arts degree, and the things that the most transferable skills I learned from that program in college was communication and collaboration. And so then I got into recruiting, working for admissions, and then I started getting into the tech scene in Pittsburgh. And so worked at a multimedia company in HR before that. Really loved HR. I love helping people. I love finding the right talent for the company and matching that to company needs. And so here I am. And then when I found out that Pittsburgh had a gaming company, I was like, this is awesome. I've lived here for almost 10 years and I didn't know. And so it's been a really great place to work for the last 3 years. So.
Very cool.
So have you then gotten more into gaming from
Yes,
being here?
yeah, for sure. I love
Same.
playing our games. All kinds of games too. So
Yeah.
it's been awesome.
No, I agree with you. I've always been a big board gamer, but whenever coming here and yeah, that's right.
I love it.
Yeah.
So good.
So Maxine says, yeah, space
Oh, that was
pinball.
good. Yeah.
Oh, I loved that growing
love
up.
That was
Sorry,
solid.
Dwayne.
Oh, no, you're fine. No, but Maxine's right. You can't. We won't try to change your mind,
No,
Maxine.
I agree.
You keep that.
Many hours spent
Oh,
playing
yeah.
Space Pin.
I'm trying to get that high score, and I remember
Absolutely.
one time I logged into the computer. I saw my dad was playing it, and like he had the high score. I was like, "No, old man, I'm gonna take this." You're just like spending your time trying to do that. Barron said that he's from St. John's, Newfoundland.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so
that is colder.
My
Yeah.
my college English professor was from Newfoundland, so
Oh, yeah.
I heard a lot about it.
okay. Yeah, it's not like it's like Montreal. It's like no, it
Right.
gets hot in Montreal.
Yeah.
It's like you calm down, sir. But yeah, being here, like having to do research on VR, AR, and all types of different experiences, and mobile. I've gotten more into mobile games,
Yeah.
especially with the Tekken mobile coming out just a couple months ago. I've been crushing. So I have to start well, I was about to geek out on it, but anyway. So that's cool that all of you, that the majority of you have been growing up, playing games. Yeah, I guess except for us operations people, but that's okay. So let's see. So what type of courses are you taking, right now that prepared you for, this internship?
Okay, start
Start from this side. Yeah, we're going like pendulum like
That's it.
that.
And then just random. Get crazy.
Yeah. Create chaos.
I think I took a bunch of programming courses. Of course, I'm an engineer. Like a course called Computer Game Programming on CMU. That was there, and I'm also interested in design, so I took Jesse's game design course.
Okay.
I think most of us here have taken it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think that's almost
What languages in programming did you?
So, what languages?
Yeah.
So I've been working with a bunch of languages from my previous jobs.
Yeah.
I used to work in C++, Java, when I was building enterprise applications, but I've not used them in the gaming sense.
Sure.
For gaming, I think I've been involved mostly with Unity.
Okay.
And,
C#.
I think C#. I think the course that I took also had some. It was mostly involving Unity and C#, a little bit of OpenGL. Then computer graphics, of course. That's cool.
Super important,
Yep.
especially in VR and AR.
Cool.
Yeah, for me, probably the most helpful course that it was one particularly on game design, which was, again, as Rajiv mentioned, it was Jesse's game design. But being part of the ETC, they have a section of fundamentals that probably get some more talk about that later. I'll just mention one in particular was improv we took. I found games are really a collaborative, activity. And so being able to work with people and, improvise sometimes is a really important skill. And so that was one that I took that was particularly helpful. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely to echo that first semester fundamental set. We all had to do building virtual worlds, which is like this anyone who goes through our program ends up having to do this program or this course. It's
Super
very
crazy, super
Oh,
cool.
yeah.
nuts.
Intense.
Yeah, it's
Crash course.
effectively- It's a crash course. It's a crash course in teamwork more than anything
Yeah.
else. But every 2 weeks, you get a new team of 5, a new platform, and a new prompt. And usually the platforms are pretty crazy in terms of the tech. And having to constantly try and produce something that's ultimately a finished product. You're trying to put out something that other people can play. You end up learning how to work with people, communicate effectively, because everything has to be done quickly. And then also learning to sort of be comfortable not knowing and be comfortable learning on the fly, because so much of VR and AR, so much of what we do at Schell is like incredibly exploratory and incredibly new. And to have taken a course that forced you to be uncomfortable in the moment and say like, I have to learn how to do this new thing and be okay with that, and maybe just spend a couple hours with YouTube tutorials and asking other people for help, like it really prepares you for being here where collaboration and exploring together is what it's all about.
Yeah, because we are all interdisciplinary.
Exactly.
From different skill sets.
Yeah. And being flexible and having hybrid skill sets is super important for us at Schell Games, just because you can do a variety of things on smaller teams.
Yeah, that's right.
Very cool.
Yeah, for me, mostly I took a lot of computer science classes in Carnegie Mellon, and also I took Introduction to Maya.
Hey.
Nice.
Yeah.
Also, I'm an engineer.
There you go. Get some Maya in.
Yeah.
Speaking of multidisciplinary, yeah. Well done.
Yeah. Different areas. We want to try different. I just like to try different new things. So I took a lot of different classes. And I took one class, it's called Computer System. It's talking about the basic level of computer systems, like the assembly or anything like. But I would say that's the most helpful class for me to prepare for the engineer job, because that course specifically taught me how to solve problems. That course have a lot of hardcore assignments I have to deal with, and to finish those assignments, I need to solve a lot of like trivial problems. But if you have that bugs in it, even it's very tiny, it will affect the whole.
Yeah. Fix
yeah,
bugs.
yeah, fix bugs. Yeah. It's everything is about like tiny things, little things. Yeah, it's like in our industry, trying to make a game, trying to add features, fixing bugs. Everything is just tiny things, but if you don't do it, it will ruin the whole experience.
Yeah, getting that level of polish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, so we got a couple questions from the audience. So first one, I'll take half the question. You can do the
Great.
second half. So are there any marketing interns currently working there? Maxine, not yet. So no marketing interns yet. So if some comes up, we will make sure that we announce it. And then how many interns do you take at a time?
So that varies. This is actually, we have 4 interns that aren't here tonight, so a total class of 8, which has been our biggest class since I've been here in 3 years. So usually we take 2 or 3. Unfortunately for this summer, we're not taking any applications for summer internships, just because it's a shorter period of time that students would be here, and as far as recruiting, we're focused on full-time hires right now, so that's taking a lot of my time and efforts. And as far as youngest age we start hiring, that's another question, I think, from Splish. So currently, a lot of our interns are actually at the graduate level, so it's kind of a non-traditional internship. It's definitely not a go get coffee, take notes internship. Each of these interns have had an opportunity to contribute in very meaningful ways and really act as full-fledged members of the teams. And so what that necessitates as far as age-wise, there's certain prerequisites and skill sets that you need currently to be an intern here. And one of the schools that we draw from, the Entertainment Technology Center, Center, they operate in a very cross-discipline collaboration way that is very similar to how we work. And so that's a much smoother ramp up and faster ramp up for interns. However, I will say we've had in the past made exceptions at the high school and undergrad level. But as far as interns in general, we hire them when we need them. So we don't have a set number that we try to get every cohort. We are working on a possible apprenticeship program, though. So that's very exciting.
Yes.
It's been slow going, but one of Jesse's dreams is to really kind of disrupt the education model for game development. And so figuring out a way in which we can have a hybrid education apprenticeship job training model where it's half-time education, half-time actual work on a project. And so we're currently in the research and development phase of that, but that would open up some doors for having people work in our studio that are at younger levels of education. So
Yeah, I know there's a lot of schools that have the CTE programs, the Career Technical
Right.
Education,
Yep.
and they do those co-ops with, but it's mostly manufacturing, but
Right.
we can do some other things
Yeah.
with it. Yeah, there was one school that had a beauty salon like on campus. I thought that was really an interesting way to do it.
yeah, the Community College of Allegheny County is actually doing great things with this.
That's
And
cool.
they have a really great innovation and technology lab that they started. So we've talked with them about potential partnerships. So it's in the works.
Yeah.
So that might open up some more doors in the future.
Baron, before we get to your question, I do want to say hi, Grieva. I hope you're still watching. You're awesome.
Grieva!
Grieva's awesome. All right. Let's see. So Baron asked for HR, and this was an issue a couple months ago. That
Yeah.
was really exciting. And I don't know if you. So Chris, our legal counsel, was quoted on some of the happenings of hiring outside the country with some political things going on. But Baron asks, what difficulties does someone from outside the country face if they want to get hired by an American game dev company? So before we go into it, there's a lot of different things. So this isn't like a one thing, and this isn't considered advice. Okay, so this is
Disclaimer.
Yeah, so this is what we've experienced, and so from our perspective, so things can be very different according to the game dev companies in the U.S. So do you have to be highly specialized or be in a very senior position?
So I would say the short answer is no. You don't have to be in a senior position or in a very specialized skill set. However, it's really difficult to start the process from scratch just because it takes so long to get work authorization. And so one of the easiest ways we've found to be effective with our timelines for hiring, we can't wait 6, 9, 12 months for someone to start the process of interviewing and then hire them, which is often how long it takes to get that work authorization and that visa, just because there's a lot of steps to the immigration process. And so a lot of our international students, in fact, almost all of our international students have come through the F1 student visa program and then have a STEM OPT extension, which allows them to then stay in the U.S. for 2 more years post-graduation.
3 years.
3 years post-graduation. Yeah, and then so we're very pro-immigration as a company, and at Pittsburgh as a city, and it's something that we really enjoy working with students and employees from all over the world. So I don't know if that helps you, but if you're not a student in that F1 STEM OPT extension, it can be a lot longer process, and it doesn't always align with our business needs. So that can be a challenge.
Cool. Let's see. Joey Z from Toontown Rewritten. Sorry, Joey. Wow, brain freeze. he's saying that he remembered hearing about the apprenticeship program, and so he's excited that it's still in progress.
It is.
Yes.
It's slow going, but it is.
It's still a thing.
Yes.
Yes.
It's something I'm working with Matt, our VP of Engineering, and Jesse a lot with. So, talking what the right mix of factors is to look like for that program.
Yeah. Maxine, she asks, so you live in Pitt during the off months. What good skills can I practice and seek out for marketing when you reopen internships?
Nice.
Well, one thing that we have been looking at and trying to get more of our hands on is the community management aspect. So, making sure that our activities are in line with the different communities that we're trying to interact with and engage. And then how with the traditional marketing, how those things can complement each other. So if you want to go offline to be a little bit more specific, I could definitely do that, Maxine. So go ahead and reach out to us with your information, and you could, I think you could DM us on Twitter if you don't want to put it in a live chat, and we'll follow up with you. Let's see, June Art Blog. Am I skipping any?
I think you're.
Okay, so June's going to be a senior illustration student in the fall, nervous about applying for jobs and interested in this company. Well, thank you, June. So you're taking one of my questions. Thank you for doing the work for me. What did you as interns feel during this process? Melissa, get started.
Oh, now we're just going to random.
Boom! Let's go!
Yeah, Melissa.
I feel like as a production intern, I had the most straightforward process of anyone in this room.
Although we interviewed you twice.
Yeah, it's true.
They're like, we should hear her again.
No. The first time she'd already accepted another internship.
Right.
So,
Ooh.
but we wanted to meet with her anyway.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where I really wanted to work here, and so I was
Yeah.
like, all right, we're just gonna meet and talk and then come back. But yeah, the production internship is sort of a more straightforward process because you can't. The production interns are producers; they produce projects, and so it's hard to get a sense of what makes a good producer in the same way that you can do a design test, you can do a programming test. So you really just go into an interview and hope that you have a personal connection with the people in the room and hope that your work speaks for itself in terms of the way that a team that you worked on in the past or the way that a project that you worked on looks like that speaks well about your skills. But it's a little scary because
I will say, so the things that were impressive about Melissa in her internship was the ways in which she was able to give specific examples about challenges that she had to navigate with scheduling, with interpersonal conflicts on her team, the ways that she was able to problem solve and then tell us and communicate that to us was really helpful in landing your internship, just because for project management and production, yes, scheduling is super important, but that's only one piece of it. It's also the interpersonal skill set that you have to have and communicate well and facilitate open communication.
I'm really glad you followed up on that point because I don't think I remember.
No, that's good.
And that was another one of my questions for you. So.
But I feel like it's definitely something where no matter what role you're being approached for, being able to articulate how you contributed to a project and in really meaningful and tangible ways. Yeah. That you did have to problem solve in whatever capacity. Like I feel like one thing that the design director on our project said about when he was doing hires in his last place was that it's not necessarily about the thing in your portfolio, it's about the methods that you problem solve.
That's right.
So even when you're in tech tests, it's not about getting the test right, it's about showing your problem solving.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak a little bit for the design process. So, I mean, I thought it was a great interview. I mean, we went and we had opportunity to kind of experience, I guess, what it would be like in the actual studio. It's very much creating that atmosphere, I thought. And so what we did is we had a design test beforehand where we were told to come up with a number of things, and then in the interview we were asked to pitch them, and then we would kind of brainstorm together. And that's what happens at the studio level over here. You got to like work with people in order to create an idea that could plausibly make sense. And so just showing kind of your process of going through how you come up with problems or you tackle problems is very much a part of working in design, you know, and
Absolutely.
exemplifying that was important for the interview. Yeah.
Yeah, I think going off of that, even the engineering, the interview process, I felt that this was the most practical kind of interview process.
yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Good. We worked a lot on it. So.
Because the previous interviews that I've attended, at least, they had a lot of programming tests and everything, but they were all like, you would have like, try to code the Fibonacci series or something like that.
Yeah.
But it didn't have anything to do with the game. It was something to do with like the data structures or algorithm problems. But
A little more abstract.
yeah, they were very abstract, and this was like we'll give you a date, we'll give you a day, and then you make a game. So that was like the best kind of test that. Yeah. So yeah, I think you can also.
I can add something to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also had that programming test, and I think if you are really a game lover, or if you really love creating games, or if you even have experience creating games, you will love it. You will love this programming test. So don't be nervous.
There you go.
Yeah, I've had interviews before, you know,
Yeah.
and like, you know, one of the most comfortable processes going through,
Yeah.
you know, this activity.
And I will say,
Really, I have to say that. Yeah.
everyone here is really like awesome and friendly and relaxed, and it helps. Like,
Oh,
this
yeah,
isn't
sure.
this isn't a place to be nervous about applying to, because like when you get to meet everybody, they're all just really friendly and just want to work together.
Yeah. I will just speak specifically to June. As far as what it's totally understandable that you're nervous, but one of the things that is something we look for as far as on the art side is a portfolio. And so if you are doing a lot of illustrations, whether it's project work or personal work, we actually like to see both, just because if, like Carl was saying, if it's your passion to make games or make game art or really do anything related to that, showcase your skills and show it on a portfolio that someone can take a look at, because a resume gives you some information, but for us, education even is only one piece of it. It's being able to demonstrate that you have employed the skills and applied the knowledge you've learned in your program. So.
Cool. What did I have? So, speaking of the interview process, are there certain questions or steps in an interview process that you like absolutely love the answer? Is there like a interview question that happens, like you know you're sitting there with Lauren and she's like, so question, you're like, yes, I'm about to
I'm gonna
crush
nail
this.
it.
Yeah. Did you guys have one of those, or even not during this interview process, something that you just like to answer when in an interview process?
So, although we had our programming test, we also have interview, which is surprise. We have like 5 people.
I know. Sometimes it can be intimidating, yeah.
That's fun. I feel like I was so I was respected by this company because they got a lot of people interviewing me.
So you're like, huh, I'm a big dude.
We do have a very thorough process, just because hiring is one of the most important ways that HR impacts the culture of the studio, and we look for people that are going to contribute and really add to the culture that we have here. So.
Yeah. And one of the question I got is during the interview process is about a gameplay feature, how to implement that gameplay feature. That's exactly what I'm focusing on and what I'm good at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I created a lot of like indie games. In our projects, we create a lot of like mobile games, VR, AR games, and I'm very happy to talk about it. I can talk about it like for like hours. So I love those questions, like how to implement features.
Great.
Very cool.
I think something that I like talking about is the projects that I've worked on previously.
Yeah.
So that was what happened during the interview. I was asked about one of the projects that I worked in the ETC, and I think being able to talk about your project and what you've done in the project, like Melissa mentioned before, I think that's a very important skill, very important skill to have during the interview.
Yeah, and Rajiv's project was really impressive, particularly on the technical side, being able to network multiple devices in VR. So that he nailed it.
So when people started
He's like,
talking,
yeah. I love it. That's awesome, man. Yeah, be proud of it. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, but when people started talking about that, I was like, yes, this is my thing.
You're like, I worked really hard on this. I'm glad I get to talk about
That's
it.
it. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So, I mean, for me, one of the questions I enjoy answering the most is like, so what are you playing now, and what do you like about what you're playing now? Can you kind of deconstruct that a little bit?
That's Harley's favorite question.
You know,
She's our VP of design.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. I mean, because I think one of the most critical skills in being a game designer is to be able to look at an experience and deconstruct it, and to be able to figure out the elements that work within the experience and to articulate that. And so a question that targets that and is I think one of my favorite to answer in particular.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite question to ask?
Ooh. Oh man, I wasn't prepared
I
for
know, I
this.
put you on the spot, yeah. That wasn't a scripted question.
No. I've been interviewing for so long. I think maybe I'll think about a specific question. But one of the things I look for is just the way that candidates are able to communicate, and really the things that they will bring that are unique to our team. And so I don't know if there's a specific question to get at that, but when I see things on a resume or on a project or in a portfolio that are unique and we can really learn from that, that's something that I really like to ask candidates about. I really like to ask candidates about their interests too, just because getting people that are passionate about things and talking about those passionate things, that's one of my favorite things about working here, is asking people what they're working on currently. We do demo days once a month where every team gets to show off what they're currently working on. So that's not just for candidates, that's for current employees. And since we have so many projects going on simultaneously, I think you guys are all on different, well, you two are on the same project, but it's crazy the variety of the different things that we work on. And so getting people to talk about what they're contributing is really cool.
Yeah, June says, thank you so much for answering their questions. So you're very welcome, June. Maxine, let's definitely talk, because so with Schell Games, whenever it comes to marketing, we do a lot of different things because the company does a lot of different things. So whenever we talk about community, we're talking about the early adopter, AR, VR. We're talking about the AR mobile audience because that seems to be different. We're talking about location-based experiences, and that's just on the B2C side. So then B2B, we're talking about, well, how do we connect with the big brands who are looking to create interactive experiences to their audiences, and how do we position ourselves as a subject matter expert to do that? So there's a lot of things that go on, with trying to put Schell Games in the right spot for that, and then to showcase that those experiences are right for their respective audiences. So, I say you're right. Googling and the company and the games don't really tell you much, but there is a lot to do behind it. So, like I said, we can connect and we can try to give you a little bit more of that, super broad description, because you know what we do. We're all over the place.
Yeah, and one of the reasons we hired Dwayne was because Joe was swamped. Joe's our director of marketing and was a department of one. And so as we were starting to get more business and focus on different things with VR and AR, we needed more help. And one of the things that we really loved about Dwayne's experience was his community engagement. And so we've been adding a lot to your role in that arena, and it's been awesome to have different social media efforts and outreach. We have a Reddit handle and channel now, so it's been pretty cool.
With more stuff to come.
Yeah, Dwayne's super busy, and we're always working on things. So.
That's right. Grievous, glad you're enjoying it. Yeah, she's Rajiv about you, I guess your love of what you do. So, yeah, she's all about that. So, see, are we missing? Okay, there we go. Yeah, trying to describe it. It's like she said, "Ha ha ha, Rajiv."
Yeah, Grievous, someone who's in our program as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. And we see her at like almost every event I go to, I run into her. Like I ran into her.
It's always a delight to see Grievous.
Yeah, I saw her in like the second floor in West Hall in the GDC.
Oh, yeah.
Like Grievous. It was awesome. Let's see. So speaking of games that you are playing, so this is twofold. What games are you currently playing? And then what is since being here, what's been your favorite Schell Games game that you've played that's out already?
That you can talk about.
Exactly.
Yeah. So last semester I actually played I Expect You to Die.
Nice, okay.
Yeah.
I played that game. I see. Schell Games is definitely the company I want to go to. Yeah, that's
It's so fun.
Yeah, really so fun, and a lot of puzzles. I've spent hours to solve those puzzles.
Yeah.
I cannot solve it, so I cheat. I just cheat. I just search on internet, like in the forum, how to do it. One level.
Wait, which one? Which one?
The second one.
Was it the submarine one?
Not the submarine.
Window washing.
The window washing.
Okay. Yeah.
Those people just like to throw stuff, and that's stuff.
I will say, Mike, when I interviewed 3.5 years ago, that was my first VR experience ever with the first SDK for the Oculus Rift and the original prototype with I Expected to Die, and it was the most mind-blowing thing. And
the car or the desk?
it was the desk, and and with the bomb and the trapdoor. See, it made such an impression on me, and that was the early stages. So to see how far it's come has been really awesome. Yeah.
And then favorite other game that or what current game are you playing right now outside of Schell Games?
Currently, previously I was playing Fallout, but it's already a long time ago.
Sure, no.
The first Fallout? Or like
no,
four?
Four is the most recent.
Yeah, I'm really.
Okay?
Yeah, yeah, it's good.
Oh,
Yeah, good.
because it takes place in my home city, so I really.
Yeah, Boston.
Was it really? Oh.
Yeah. So I've been like meaning to play it for a really long time, but I'm really nervous because every time Boston's portrayed in a game, it's always wrong, and it gets me. It gets me deeply. So I haven't played it yet, but I've heard it's good.
Mark, could you pass me the water?
Sure can.
I didn't feel like
That's a really good
You
game.
got it.
Thank you very
Anybody
much.
else drinks water?
I'm already.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right, so you're the one that dictated Carl.
It's sure. I mean, I also enjoy I Expect You to Die. One thing I really liked about that game is you get this very kind of secret agent feel. It kind of pours out of every aspect of it.
Yeah.
The music and
It
the
feels
way
so
it's
cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And the kind of puzzles that you have to solve and like the evil villain that's kind of in the background of it. I really enjoyed that game. What I'm playing right now, actually, I started playing it because some of the designers at the studio were talking about it, and they were like, "Oh, this is an awesome game." And the game is called Persona 5. And so I'm like, I've got to play that. And
Personified or Persona 5?
Persona 5. Persona
Good
5,
clarification.
Yeah.
So what is it? Persona 5?
Yeah, Persona 5. Actually, Tim
Persona 5.
Sweeney and Chad also both really like that game, and they recommended it. I'm having a blast with that. So.
You couldn't get two better recommendations.
Yeah,
so.
no, they were really good.
Yeah.
Persona 5. Okay.
Persona 5.
Rajiv.
Sure. I actually played I Expect You to Die only after starting the internship. So I've been here for a couple of demo days, and when I was at the ETC.
Yeah.
but I've never been able to play it here because of
The lines are long.
Yeah, lines are
Yeah.
super long.
Yeah.
So you got a chance when you were here. All right.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's been awesome.
Yeah.
I played Water Bears before. I'm
I
a super-
love water bears.
Oh, yeah.
Water Bears is super cute.
Yeah, I'm more of a puzzle games guy.
Sure,
so,
yeah.
So I love Water Bears.
VR or on the tablet?
Yeah.
Okay. Both are great, but yeah. But just something about being in such a vibrant world with these really cute creatures you can
Right.
interact with, and they're so, like, the audio was great on that game.
Yeah.
Design was really good.
Yeah. Francisco did an awesome job.
I'm terrible by saying the same thing as everybody else, but I really like I Expect You to Die. I borrowed a Vive from the school because we were demoing a thing and at a conference, and I, instead of using it to update the game for the conference, I just played through the entirety of I Expect You to Die. And, like, and it's so visceral, like in the train DLC level, I forgot that I was playing in like this seated stationary mode and physically ducked out of my chair when the gun came through the slot. And I had two friends with me who were watching me do this, and they just saw me duck and dive, and they just were like, "What are you doing? Get up!" And it was
You would be surprised how often that happens.
Oh, yeah.
You were not alone. You were not the first to be the last.
I skipped your game that you're currently
Oh, yeah, what are
playing.
you playing?
I'm sorry, Richie.
I just finished Firewatch. I just
Firewatch.
finished playing Firewatch.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that was amazing. I have Edith Finch. I've yet to play Edith Finch, so that's on my list now.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I picked up Edith Finch at GDC and haven't played it yet. And I just ordered Life is Strange, which I'm really excited about.
That's a good
But
idea.
I
Yeah,
have
a lot
a
about
one
that.
game at a time rule, and I'm in the middle of playing Horizon Zero Dawn. And I'm not a completionist, like I'm not.
I am.
But that game is making me one. I've been playing it since I got it for the holidays this year. And I've logged so many hours, and I'm still not done, and I don't know when I'm gonna be done. But like there was a point, I've stopped for a bit, but there was a point where I came in like every day and was talking about it from my desk. I don't know if you were there for this, but if anybody ever turned around to ask what I was up to, I was like, "Oh, I've been playing Horizon Zero Dawn. I haven't slept." But yeah, so that's I'm still playing that. And
Okay.
we'll probably finish by graduation.
Again.
Cool.
Wow. And so we got a couple more questions.
Can I talk about my games first?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so centered on the interns. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lord.
No, because I consider myself a gamer now.
Yeah, that's right. My bad.
I cycled through a couple on Steam, and I love the vintage feel of our game Orion Trail.
Mhm.
And I actually got to write one of the encounters during one of our Jam Week projects.
I didn't know that.
I don't know what it's called, but you go to a planet where the rule of law is it's called out of whack, and you have to figure out how to engage with them with all these legal terms.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I wrote that. And Dave Bennett was a huge help with balancing it, but I had so much fun. So get to use my English writing background and get some creativity in there. And then I played Duke Nukem 2 on Steam, so like throwback, because I played it a long, long time ago, and now that it's on Steam, I was so excited to find it. So, and then I was really into a period where I was playing Hoodamath games a lot. So they're supposed to teach middle schoolers, not adults. I mean, I guess it's great that I was attracted to them, but you're able to do Papa's Freezeria, Papa's Cupcakeria, Pizzeria. You get to decorate your little shop. You make milkshakes for all the customers. You're learning customer service and math skills, and you get tipped on things. It made me think of my days working at Rita's Italianize. So it was definitely I'm very into nostalgic and vintage games.
That's
So.
cool. If you want to take.
Yeah, sure. So Noah is asking, or at least making the assumption that we get a lot of applications under the general submission category. That's a correct assumption. We get hundreds of applications. His question is, how often is it checked, and is there a better time to apply or ways people have stood out? So that's a great question. Currently, I am the main person who checks those general submissions. I get notifications whenever somebody applies. We had a period before we were able to have the automatic reply be our FAQs. So I worked really hard on our hiring FAQs, and now that's the first automated email that you get. So that kind of helps people gauge their expectations, just because if you're applying to general submission or future internship general submission, you may not always hear back from us. And what happens is it doesn't go into a black hole. That's the first place we look before we post a live position. So that is when the best time for me to go through and identify, oh, there's somebody that has already applied for Schell Games and they have this skill set. And then I do periodically go through and take those out of general submission and put them into positions that aren't live in public, but they are managed by the different hiring managers, and so they get notified, and then they get to look at the applications that have come in, even though those specific positions aren't live and we're not actively hiring for them. One of the things we do try to do is, if you are applying to a live post, so any position that we're actively in a search for, we do try to notify you of your status throughout that process. So you may not hear back if you've applied to general submission, but you should hear back if you've applied to a live post. It may take a while, just depending on my bandwidth, because I'm the person that usually replies to all of them, and so that's kind of how that process works. And then I do periodically go through and flag candidates that are interesting. Things that I look for are, again, portfolio pieces. We can never have too many great engineers. We have such a strong engineering department here. I also look for graduation times, because if people are not graduating yet, and we're not hiring internships right at that moment, I flag them to review when we do have internships before they graduate. Just so if it's good to apply early and let us know when you're available, just because even if it's not, if we don't have an opening for this cycle, we may in the future cycles. There's a great line that's referred by, so if you know somebody at the company, I look at that line as well. And if you do know somebody, ping them to ping me. That's always a way to get my eyes on your application if I haven't already looked at it that way. So.
Cool.
Don't just send your resume out through the website is the only way to have an official application, just because if you're sending emailed resumes to anyone in the studio, it could get lost. So, but I'm in it frequently. Yeah, I'm in it frequently.
Yeah, so the anything that's labeled is the right way to go. If you go some off channel, we all directed back to her, so
but then I have to manually put it in, and then
that's make sure you use the things that are intended to be used. Maxine asks that she may be interested in attending an open house. It is the 24th of May, so 5/24, 6:30 to 8:30. And what's the main focus for the people visiting during that event? So a little bit of everything. So not only do you get a chance to meet, so will you get to meet any of us at the open house? I can answer that first. You're going to be at the open house, maybe?
I am, yeah.
So I could be there. I might not be there. It all depends on what happens.
Why, Dwayne?
Yeah, that's right. So I said this in the last dinner with the devs, but my wife and I are expecting, and the kid could be coming at any time. So if I'm allowed out of the house for 2 hours, I'll definitely be at the open house. So
Dwayne, you do what you need to do, Dwayne.
Right,
you do what you need to do.
No, so I need to go to the open house. I need to meet Maxine. She knows I'm going to be there. That could go over really well.
Yeah, we've tweaked the format a little bit over the years. We used to do a panel where certain representatives from each discipline would talk about their experience. But one of the things we found, because we do retrospectives after each event, is that the most valuable thing people got out of the event was being able to talk directly to the developers. And so we ended up having rooms that were dedicated to each discipline, and then you could go and it was okay if you were interested in multiple disciplines, but you could go and talk to people that actively work in those disciplines. So that's the main focus, as well as demoing all of our awesome games. So those are the two big focus: talking to our developers, and Jesse always does usually a great welcome, and then playing our games. So.
And a chance to see the studio.
Yeah.
I mean, still, we do the open house
Right, yes,
like,
this is
2
our-
times a year, and
Yeah.
people still surprised that there's a game studio in Pittsburgh.
Well, and we didn't do it in the fall
We didn't do it
because
this
we were
fall
under
because-
construction.
Yep.
So our first floor is now done, which
Yep.
is very exciting.
Yep. Well, we got the clock tower back.
Yes, yes.
So,
VR demos too, right?
what's up?
VR demos.
And VR demos, yep. So we're going to be doing, so we'll do a VR demos, we'll do some, a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Because we're still planning it to make sure
Yeah.
that it's the best for the public. So, if you're able to come, May 24th, 6:30 to 8:30 is part of the Remake Learning
Yeah.
Days that start May 17th. So there's over 300 events going
Yeah,
on in
it's
the
crazy.
Pittsburgh region.
Pittsburgh's a happening place.
Yep.
So
And so it's
Is that
a
not cool
it's a
to
cool
say?
thing to do. What's up?
is that not cool to say?
That's right.
I'm farther away from school, so I don't know what's cool anymore.
Gee whiz!
I
Shell
know.
Games is awesome.
Gosh
Gosh golly. Matt. Oh wait. Let's see. Did I get him?
We didn't get Matt yet.
Okay. So Matt asked, and we could throw this to the interns. Those studying UX expected to code at Schell Games, specifically those considering UI and interaction design and VR AR.
I have an answer if no one wants to.
I think
You can
Might
talk
have
about
an
your
answer.
experience, and then we could throw it.
Yeah.
I'm not a UI or UX person. I'm a gameplay engineer, but
Mhm.
I think that the general expectation for UI UX designers is to know some kind of scripting so that they can kind of visualize their designs better. Or, for example, if you're using Unity, trying to kind of implement those UI designs in Unity so that the engineers and artists can have a look at it easier.
Yeah, that was great. UI UX kind of is in the Bermuda Triangle between design, art, and tech. So while our UI and UX artists do live in the art department, they can be anywhere on that spectrum of technical capability and design. Because talking about figuring out how people flow through an experience, particularly as you mentioned in VR and AR, there's not a lot of best practices out there for user experience and user interface in AR and VR. And so it's been a lot of lessons learned. But Rajiv is right in that there is a hope that our UI UX artists have some sort of implementation experience and capabilities because then they're much better and easier and able to test out their designs. So yeah.
Let's see. Zig, did anybody else want to add on that? All right, we can move on. Zig has a couple questions. How does internship work for out-of-state applicants? What do you look for in this particular field? You want to take that one?
Yeah, great. So it doesn't really matter where you're from necessarily for, as far as in the U.S., we've had applicants come from all over. And I mean, we do request that people are in the Pittsburgh studio for the duration of their internship, but they can be from anywhere else. And 3D art and rigging is super interesting to me, and it's a very technical, challenging skill set. And so things we look for are demo reels, again, portfolio pieces of things you've actually rigged. The ability to ascertain where you are in the pipeline with animators and concept artists, figuring out how you fit into that pipeline before, whether it's personal projects as a freelancer, whether it's in your program at school. Those are the types of things we look for. So, yeah.
I have a question from LinkedIn. Typically, how long is an internship? When does it typically start and typically end?
Great question. So we have 3 general seasons that we go for internships. We have a summer internship, which is our shortest internship, about being out of state too. Our internships are generally full-time, 40-hour-a-week experiences. So it's harder for people that are out of state to do that during a semester, just because then they'd have to take classes as well as work here. And that doesn't always support our development cycles. And so if you're coming from out of state, what are you laughing at, Melissa?
Oh, sorry, just saw the next question.
Oh, got it. So out of state, 40-hour
That's
work
funny.
weeks. And so summer internships, I generally try to keep open for out of state applicants. So even though we're not looking for any this summer, sorry. And so the ETC is a great partnership for us because it is basically a work steady experience that is like a 40-hour work week per job. But if you're out of state, it's really helpful to apply for those summer internships. So
Cool. Let's see. Specifically, so somebody had a question about designers. So what typically are we looking for design interns?
I can speak to a little of my own experience. I think the opportunity, the ability to critically think, as I said before, to deconstruct experiences, to be able to articulate. Working cross-disciplinary teams is really important. A lot of my days spent talking to programmers and talking to artists. Being able to really effectively communicate is one of the most important skills. Building off ideas that may not be, your own, the ability to make decisions that's objective about like how to achieve the best kind of experience, I think is really important as well. Being able to display your thought process as well, taking feedback, and like working on that, being responsive to feedback. I think all of these are really important skills to really work effectively as a designer.
yeah, and one thing, everybody in the studio has an impact on the design of the game.
True,
So,
yeah, absolutely.
designers are typically in charge of corralling all of that feedback and those ideas, and really driving the vision of that experience. But ideas come from anywhere in the studio, which is really exciting.
So before we get to Matt, Jacob, good to see you again, Jacob. I had a question about the internships being 40 hours a week. Are they paid?
I don't know, do we pay you guys?
Yeah.
Yes, we do typically pay our internships. It's rare that we do 4-credit only internships. That's usually when it is a 20-hour-a-week situation during the school year, but it is rare that we don't pay our interns. One of the things too, this goes along with what Carl was saying. We want our interns and really anybody in the studio to have a work-life balance, and so we try not to have you guys working overtime. Really, anybody in the studio. So.
Maxine said that her boyfriend was born and raised in Pittsburgh and had no idea about Schell Games being in Pittsburgh, and saying like I was born and raised in Pittsburgh and I had no idea that Schell Games was here.
15 years, so.
Yeah, which is crazy. Yeah, in 2002, so I was a sophomore in high school whenever Schell Games got started, which is crazy that 2002 I was a sophomore in high school. Anyway, I know I'm getting old.
Do the math.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was 16 in 2002, but let's see, Matt. So our involvement in Jedi Challenges. So there were multiple studios and companies working on Jedi Challenges. We were primarily the developer for the lightsaber duels. So whenever you use the lightsaber to fight, we were one of the main developer for that. For more information about that, you can go to the Star Wars blog. They have a couple articles about our involvement there. And to see, a little bit more of that interaction, you could go to the Lenovo Jedi Challenges, and it has a lot more of information there. So,
Very collaborative development process. So.
yeah, so it's super cool. Did we get? Okay, cool. Yeah, guys, please keep the questions coming. These are awesome. Let's go to some of mine. Let's see. So we didn't really get a chance to talk about what you've been doing at Schell Games. So let's get into that. And again, we talked prior, so you guys know what we can say. So let's go. Go ahead, Carl.
Okay. So, in Schell Games, I work on projects that including like AR, like theme park entertainment, multiplayer, and mobile games. And I actually work on different projects in my whole internship sessions, and they are all great. And you can, as an intern, it's not necessary to be working only on your own project. You can also go to other projects, play test their games or experiences, and it is kind of awesome. So you can experience not only your own stuff. Yeah.
It's probably my favorite part, actually, is like the days when other projects are play testing.
I always sign up for play testing. They're probably sick of me saying, I'll tell you what I think about your game.
The project Carl is on has been exclusively doing play tests with naive testers, and I played it once before, and so I'm not allowed to play it again.
I know.
Oh, whenever you see the email, it's like, is it more?
The one time they did one for non-naive
I
testers.
wasn't here.
That's right,
That's
right. Dave, you're on notice, buddy.
It's like they knew we were out of town.
Yeah, he like looks out. No, let's go. Oh, that's funny.
I've only been on one project. I'm a producer, so the main thing is because the producer acts as sort of the with the project director, the steering of the entire team ship. It's pretty integral that the producer stays on one project for the whole time. So I've been seeing a single project through from we got like 2 weeks into production was when we got here on an augmented reality project.
To shipping.
To shipping.
Yeah, right.
To shipping, which is very exciting. It's kind of,
that's right. You'll be there. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, interns don't always get that opportunity, but
it's pretty incredible to see like the entire lifespan of a project in development, which is really lucky.
Cool.
And so like it's been kind of amazing because the project has been like, there was one point where we needed the biggest conference room in order to have our daily meetings, and then as people started phasing off onto other projects, I'd come in and look around and get this
That's right.
And people started sitting like further and further in the corners trying to get cool things.
That's right.
It was really, but yeah, so that's mainly what I've been doing is producing that AR project.
Yeah, so Melissa and I work on the same project, and I can talk a little bit about how it feels to kind of design in that. And it's been working with a design director who's on that, and kind of following their lead. We began with some brainstorming. Got to participate in a little bit of that too, which was fun. And then the project involved some combat design, so I got an opportunity to do that. So it was really fun.
Yeah, Duran has contributed to one of the major parts of the game, which has been really cool.
Fantastic project, really great opportunity.
Cool.
I've been working on an intern with Schell Games IP. So it's basically a VR experience. It's an educational experience, like a chemistry game show set in space kind of deal. It's a very interesting kind of experience. I think one thing about this internship that I've enjoyed is, as Lauren mentioned before, we've been treated more like full-time employees of the company and not just like interns, because initially it was kind of overwhelming because once the internship started, I think the second day I was given
you had tasks.
It's like, hey, you can do this, right?
Yeah.
we told them how good you were, so they were like, all right. We try not to throw people in the deep end right away. But Rajiv, he came on at the point where the project was making a big shift, and so it was kind of all hands on deck at that point, and working under Henry, our tech director, for that project. Henry is one of the nicest.
Henry's just wild.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Like he's like, oh, I did this thing. How did you do it? Like,
I know.
It's just so good.
I remember laughing so hard because I don't know if this happened to you guys when we were doing the interviews, and like this is strictly the timing of when we started, right? But when we were doing the interviews, I remember Ed saying like, yeah, you'll have like a 2-week onboarding period where you're just gonna like observe, and we may not even assign you a project yet. And then like we get in, and it's like, all right, let's go.
That is typically how Ed likes to ramp up producers. But yeah, that's you guys are just so capable.
It was all the timing.
No, and absolutely. It feels like it is that we get real responsibility, you know? After a while, people forget that we're interns, right?
Right. Honestly,
You know?
that's how I find that interns have been a success, is because people are like, where did they go? I'm like, oh, they left. They had an internship and it ended.
Yeah.
So
Like I
We
look.
know who it is.
yeah.
Like I literally had to go into Bamboo. I was like, okay, who are interns and who aren't?
That's our HR program.
Yeah. That's
Our directory.
That's just crazy. So yeah, you guys have been really awesome. Maxine asks, for everyone, what has been your most fun experiences at Schell Games, and what words would you describe the company as a whole? So let's give a restraint. Let's say for words, let's say 3 words. So what 3 words would you use to describe the
Do
company
they
as
have
a
to be
whole?
3 independent words, or are we trying to string together a 3-word
10
sentence?
letters total.
Game developers do.
Oh man!
I'll say 3 individual words.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I think collaborative. I would say that really describes the way, at least, at a project level, not at a whole company level, things feel. A lot of the day is spent meeting with people, talking about ideas. Ideas can come from anywhere, as Lauren said. So that's how one word I describe Schell.
Sure. Yeah, you don't have to say 3. But if you go sooner, then there's less chance that somebody will take your.
I'm ready to go first. I'm like stealing them on his
Duran knows what's up.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll say, I feel like Schell works really hard at being transparent as an organization. I've worked at several other places, and it's one of the most transparent places I've ever been. And that's really from the studio leadership, starting with Jesse. He just did a Q&A session last week with the whole studio, where anybody, it's kind of an Ask Me Anything, and he gives regular updates on status of projects. Our vice presidents and senior management are really excellent mentors. We do a lot of skill building on having difficult conversations and giving feedback in a constructive way. So I'm going way past the 1 word, but that all leads up to transparency. So
I know it's 2 words, I'm gonna do it anyway, but there's this very strong people first model where, like, especially at least on the production team, like we have these bi-weekly meetings where we've been going through our pillars of what we try and stand for, and everything comes down to the people come first, your team comes first, and that definitely leads to a culture of, like, you want your team to be passionate about everything that they're doing, but you don't want them to kill themselves over what they're doing. And so the idea that, like, we're working a 40-hour week, we try to avoid crunch at all costs, and no one's, like, as a producer, I feel like I tend to body block anyone from their computer after a certain hour, because, like, that's this culture we're trying to do. Like, we want you to love what you're doing, be passionate about what you're doing, and then we also want you to, like, respect yourself and do what you need to do for yourself.
yeah, we want a sustainable workload, because we have a lot of people that work here for many years, and that model only works if you are watching and balancing that workload. Any other words you guys want to throw out there?
2
You want to go
Gotta
first?
say something.
You go first.
Nice, Regina.
Okay.
Delegating.
Yeah. So my first word is productive.
Mm.
Yeah. So like each week we like I work in both projects, and both projects they are all very productive. Each week our product will be different. It will be a big different, and we'll see advance of our project, our products, and they're growing. I'm happy to see that everything is changing better and better.
Iterating, yeah.
Iterating, yeah. Another word is comfortable. Yeah, to be here, I feel very comfortable. I enjoy like sitting here, like doing writing code and talking with people and hanging around in the kitchen and something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so comfortable
awesome.
to be here. And also the server.
Man, you're on fire.
The server.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, no.
The server is family.
Oh.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. It's like I'm in a family that if you need any help, your family members can always help you. They're always here to.
Very
like,
supportive, yeah.
Yeah. So it's very
That's so
supportive.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was kind of my word was going to be approachable. So
Yeah.
everyone in the studio is so approachable. You have a problem, you can talk to anyone.
Including
Yeah.
Jesse, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you can just walk right to their door and just talk to them about it. So.
I think I was surprised by that at first. I don't know why, because there's no reason to think it was going to be anything else. But like the fact that in the beginning, as you're learning, you go up to somebody and say like, I don't really get this, and everyone's like, yeah, come here, like let's talk about it. It's pretty amazing.
Going a little bit off the people first, I would say educational, because not only at a project level where the people that you work with are very generous in the information that they share, but also like we have events like that occur, like we have Awesome Tuesdays and we have various like talks and stuff.
Program Wednesdays.
Yeah, exactly. Where we get an opportunity to develop our skills. We also get to go to GDC as well too. And in that regard, I think the studio is great in developing its talent.
Cool. Let's see. Well, I'll go. So one word to describe Schell Games. I would say, just innovative.
I was thinking that
Yeah,
too.
like
Good job,
the
Louis.
things that we are working on is just. It's cutting edge stuff.
Yeah, it's bleeding edge technology.
Yeah, seriously.
They're still making the technology we're developing on.
Right,
So.
right. He's like, can we test it? No, why? Because it's not done yet. It's like, give me the okay. So it's
Makes
so,
for great conversations with us and our partners. So,
Yeah.
Which it's really cool because we actually sometimes
Right.
impact the design of the
Yeah.
things that we're working on too.
And so the point that Schell Games is able to not just establish best practices, but to establish practice. It's like pretty cool conversation to be a part of. So, and a company to be a part of. It's super cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. So Matt asks. Well, actually, let's go to Jacob and then we'll go to Matt. As someone who's developing a portfolio, I'm curious if there are any place where I can see your portfolios. For instance, do you guys have a personal website or a itch profile?
I was gonna say, if you guys wanna come throw them into chat, that's totally fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can each come around and do that.
Yeah, you guys.
Cool. So as they do that, we can. Yeah, go ahead. See, Matt asks. Let's see. Where does the team seek inspiration for new stories and games? Does the idea typically start with an idea, a story, an interaction mechanic, or a bit of everything? So I'm going to cheat and say a bit of everything, but then if you guys want to go into a little bit detail of some of that, you're welcome to.
So what I would say, I think inspiration can really come from anywhere. Like, to underscore that point. And so someone maybe had an experience from, maybe they were in the park somewhere, or maybe they were playing a little physical game, or like a board game, or, and so just taking that idea and kind of figuring out what's fun about it. One philosophy they teach us at the ETC is finding the fun.
Find the fun.
Yeah, find the fun. And so, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a little bit of everything. At least what I've seen in the brainstorms is that, especially if when we're working with clients, there's usually a little bit of what they want ahead of time, of what they'll tell us they're looking for, that sort of sets that initial layer. And there's usually a story component to that. So when we're designing within the parameters of maybe like a gross mechanic or a gross story that we're trying to refine. And then usually it's this back and forth. Like I know we were sitting in brainstorms where we're like, okay, we need to meet this mechanic need, but what makes sense within the story parameters provided by the client? And they always need to work together. If you have something that doesn't make sense from a mechanic perspective, it ends up feeling out of place. And that brainstorm is usually driven collaboratively by the team. So a big part of what designers do and what makes them so amazing is like you guys go in and you're leading these brainstorms and you're taking the collective thoughts that people have as they're kind of buying in on the project and getting ideas and saying like, okay, how can we refine that into something that's actionable? So you guys are very much like, you both come up with ideas of your own and then also act as an awesome filter for all the other things that are coming out of other specialties.
Yeah, that's true. Just going off of that, there are different tools you can use for that filter. Design pillars are particularly helpful in that regard. And considering, interaction and story, sometimes games are developed with, interaction first in mind, and the story gets interwoven into that. Sometimes you go story first, and then you discover what could be cool interactions within that story. And it's through a process of play testing, really, iterating. Do you find really what works? And then, design helps to kind of just channel that and corral that into what is ultimately a fun experience.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, one thing I'll say too, as far as the studio goes, for inspiration, I think I mentioned this earlier, Jam Week is something that we pause production on most of our projects for a week, and we cater breakfast and lunch, and we allow teams to self-form and recruit, and there's a whole pitch process of an idea for a prototype, and your team works together for that week, and then there's a giant demo day at the end of Jam Week where you're able to show off your ideas, and that's a way that we've leveraged a lot of those ideas for our original IP. We've used things that have come out of that, which is really just leveraging our people's creativity and talent and passion and working together for pitches that we've used for different clients. And so that's really something that we feel strongly in investing in, and it's a really cool way for people to kind of get out of their normal development routine and work with people that they may not have had a chance to work with. Try out new roles. That's a really, obviously I've participated in design of certain things during Jam Week. I'm not a designer, but it's a low risk time where you're able to explore those different skills and ideas and passions. So.
And then, excellent. Thank you, Mike. I was just going to say, if you go to our blog with the Insight, we've been covering some of the Jam Week experiences, and we've done 3 so far, and then also there's a really good post in 2016 by Francisco that talk about Jam Week as a long-term investment.
Yeah.
And so that's a really good one to reference about the type of things that we do, what rapid prototyping looks like in Jam Week, because that's a big thing that people talk about.
It's a 1 week sprint, so.
Yeah, you really have to iterate really quickly, and just seeing what people come up with in a week is just absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
So it's cool stuff.
I'll take that question.
Oh, yeah.
I know I'm talking a lot, but.
So Maxine asks, what are the actual times that you are in the office, as in 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So
Yeah.
are there set hours?
There are not. So we don't have core hours. I will speak at a high level, and then I'll let the teams talk about their individual experiences. So generally speaking, operations and QA and IT, they're early birds, and they like to start. So what we do is we have flexible scheduling. So they like to start a little early. They get here between 7:30 and 8:30 before getting bombarded by requests from the teams, and then they cut out a little bit early just to avoid Pittsburgh traffic. Then our producers and operations group like to get here between 8:30 and 9:30 to prep for the development group and the teams that are coming in. And then the development group starts rolling in around 9:30, 10:30. And usually the first item of the day that teams have to be here for is their daily team meeting. So. And then you just shift your hours a little bit later. As far as lunch events, we try to schedule lunch events around the 12 to 1 or 12:30 to 1:30 mark. So that's when we have Awesome Tuesdays or Program Wednesdays. That way, everybody can kind of expect and know when those are going to be scheduled. But we don't require anybody to take a certain lunch break. And our teams actually go to lunch a lot as kind of a fun bonding event. And then also it kind of varies team by team as far as when the daily scrum times are, just because the daily meetings where you talk about what you worked on yesterday, what's blocking you, what you are going to be working on today. And Melissa can talk more about that. That's her job, is to run those. Very efficient meeting where people get on the same page. But I forgot what I was going to say after that, so I'll turn it over to you guys.
Yeah, I feel like that morning standing meeting sort of sets when all of the team is expected to be in by, and it's always set for the start of the day because it's very important that before anybody gets any work done, you understand what's been done and if there's anything that requires pivoting. So ours at least is at 10:30. There are some that are a little bit later. I feel like if I moved it any earlier, we would get people who just wouldn't be able to make it. Like it's just too early for some people.
So on that note, we allow the teams a lot of flexibility and autonomy in setting those daily times and the schedule for each development cycle. So you can be a person in the studio that's been here for years and you can have different schedules. But one of the things that we allow teams to do is kind of set that schedule as the project is starting and figure out what works for the team as a unit. So
what's fun is so producers, like Lauren said, they come in very early. We have a standing meeting of our own that occurs at 9:45 every day, and our project director comes in very early as well. So I make a point of meeting with him if I can before I go to that. So like there's a series of check-ins. But what I feel sort of bad about is I live with one of the sound interns, Julian. He's not an early riser, and he gets dragged in with me every morning.
Like carpool.
He's so grumpy every time, and I feel so bad. Because his first scrum is our scrum, so he's just, he gets an early start on the day, I guess.
Yeah, the studio is usually empty by 7:30 though, because people are out, and unless they're staying for a D&D session or a board game night, because we do allow our employees liberal use of the studio, so for personal activities and things.
Yeah, cool. Let's see. We are approaching the end, so let's do some end questions. What is something that you wish you knew before you went into an internship?
Tell your former self, if you get in a time machine.
Right. It's like, hey, before you do this, make sure you know blank. Doesn't have to be bad. It could be something really good. Or surprising, or...
He looks ready to say something, Regina.
No. I was going to say that was a hard question.
I feel like I have an answer for this because like 2 weeks into the project, I was like telling somebody this, that it's so corny, but like you were brought into this position because you can do the job. And I think because of the expectation of other companies where an intern is the person who gets coffee or the person who just kind of sits and observes, that like that's who you should be. And Schell, I think, expects the best version of yourself and the person that you are, when you have all of the autonomy that being in school gives you. And I definitely came here thinking like, oh gosh, like so much responsibility. What do you mean I'm running this? I can't do this. And I tried not to show any of that, but on the inside I was terrified. And 2 weeks into it, when the person who was mentoring me for the first 2 weeks, Gabe, when he took off the reins and was like, I'm not leading this anymore, you need to stop like being nervous and just do it. It's like, oh yeah, I can do this. Like it took me 2 days to be like, okay, this is fine. Like it's just like any other thing I've done, and I was hired because I know how to do this and I can do this. And trusting that is a skill you already have and that you should be able to do it here too.
Very cool. Yeah, and I think that's a big thing that Chris says. Making sure that we create an environment where you can be your best self is a
I know I stole that from him.
Yeah.
I use it all the time.
but it's cool
Yeah.
because it makes so much sense that it's okay to be creative. It's okay to ask questions.
Yeah.
It's okay to fail fast. You know, so it's cool stuff. But
It's okay to share your ideas.
Yeah, share your ideas. Yeah.
It's okay to ask for help. Yeah.
Yeah, riffing off that, I think I would tell myself don't be afraid to admit you don't know something,
Yeah.
right? Because whether it be in the interview process or on a day-to-day basis, we're dealing with challenging problems, and to be just be open about like, hey, I don't know the solution, but here is my thought process, right? And showing that at least everyone works together to build like a solution that works well, and just not being afraid and being open about that is, I think, something that would have been really helpful to know. Yeah.
I'll say, as an engineer intern, I'll say be prepared to contribute your ideas to the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, and always contribute your thoughts, like your even it might not be the best idea, but just contribute it, and just don't be afraid of saying your ideas.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think going off of that, I think you should also be open to taking feedback. So that's a very important thing, I think, because at least as an engineer, when I came here, I didn't know a lot of things that was happening here. The way of like writing code, that was all very different from how I used to do it.
Mhm.
So like taking good feedback from people who know what they're doing is a very important thing that you need to have.
Yeah, that's one thing I would have told myself early on. I've been blessed with such a great team on the HR front, and then working with the VPs. They're also kind and patient, and so I when I first started, I was really nervous, and I made a few minor mistakes, and I would run up to Chris and be like, "I'm so sorry," and he's like, "What are you talking about? It happens." And so, that freedom to fail, even if it's in minor ways, really embracing that, and then as Rajiv was saying, being able to not only take the feedback that you're given, but really seek it out. That's been a mental shift for me, because it's reflecting a growth mindset, and everybody here wants to see you succeed and wants to help you on that way. They want to help contribute to the project and see you be your best creative self and help you get there. One of our core values is amazing transformation. That's with our games, but that's also, we want working here to be transformative in the best possible way. So
Yeah, one thing, I think I piggyback with you of seeking stuff out, because like you said, people are really nice, but you want to make sure that you're continuing to grow and do better, and so you gotta seek out that feedback. It's like, hey, we did this, how could this be better?
Right.
Like, what could be done,
and not taking it personally. It's super hard.
Yeah.
So when people are giving you constructive feedback or criticism, it's not an easy, natural thing to be, okay, yes,
Right.
I hear what you're saying. There's something valid in what your perspective is, and really just taking a step back and be like, okay, maybe even if it's not delivered in the most smooth or effective way, it's figuring out, okay, what truth is here, and how can I not react so personally, but take what I can and really grow from this.
Right, yeah, you don't want to be writing stuff down. I was like, okay, man, they hated this. Okay. I need to just start over. Wow, all right. It's just like, he was like, find the good in it. And it was like, okay, well, this is how it could be better. And they're coming from a place like, we want you to succeed,
Yeah,
So.
well, that's one of our principles, always ask if there's a better way. So not just staying and doing something because it worked for a period of time. We have to constantly iterate and figure out how to be better.
Yeah. Mike, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
I was not paying attention.
No, he's managing the live chat.
I honestly was thinking of things I could do to make the stream look better next time.
See, your practice, yes. Always ask if there's a better way. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I was doing.
It's like you planned it.
That's right. Yeah, Mike is constantly iterating on the stream, so we're figuring stuff out.
Ridiculous that that's true.
Let's see. All right, so my final question then will be final piece, and we'll make sure each one of you, and Lauren, you can answer this as well. What piece of advice do you have for those looking for internships? Who would like to start? Well, Carl's was there. Stop looking at Carl.
We're all thinking about answers.
Yeah,
Look at
yeah.
Carl.
Just comes in all smiling and
They're like, Carl. All right, Jabra, go ahead. Carl, I got your back.
Yeah.
I would say, do your research. Kind of figure out what you'd like to do. Have a look at the company, their culture. When applying, ensure that the cover letter can express your interest and what you're looking for out of the experience as well. Do your research.
I love that. Second that.
Fine. Melissa.
Great.
You've had multiple internships.
I have. I think, especially for a place like Schell, trying to be your most genuine self when approaching the internship process, because you want more than anything else for Lauren to see you and for the hiring person, the team that you're theoretically going to be on, to see you for who you are as a teammate, who you are as a creator, and there's this instinct to put on, I think, the veneer of what you think other people want, and that can read as like fake or something, and people won't come out of that feeling like they met the real you. And so as corny and cliche as this sounds, I like being prepared to be yourself and answer all questions and present yourself as who you are genuinely, and not the like laminated perfect version of who you think you should be, because I think people appreciate that. People appreciate who you are as you are, and that's what they're gonna get anyway, so might as well be that person.
Yeah.
Rajiv.
I think it's important to when you're applying for an internship, first find out if that kind of suits you and you like what you're doing there.
Yeah, I made Rajiv pick. He applied as a designer and an engineer. I was like, Rajiv, you gotta pick one.
Nice.
Sorry to put you on the spot, Rajiv.
Because I like both of it.
Yeah, you got some design elements here.
Because that's very important that you like what you're doing, it's easy while looking for jobs to just apply for 50 or 100 random jobs and then just pick one what you get. But it's I think it's much better applying for narrow down your focus and concentrate on what you really want to do, and then
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Cool.
I'll say if you really like the position you applied for, you don't need to be. You can just be chill.
I love it.
Carl's
He's given me that advice on multiple occasions. It's been great. Really be chill.
I learned to collaborate with people, because in Schell Games you definitely need to collaborate with different people with different skill sets. You should learn to collaborate. Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, we don't have anybody that works in isolation here, so.
Yeah.
Collaborate and be chill. I like it.
Love it. Nice.
Lauren, anything to add?
Ooh, what was the question?
What was the question? Where is it? Piece of advice for those looking for
Oh,
internships.
yes. First of all, love your guys' answer. That was really great, and I don't disagree with any of it. I think too, be very targeted in your approach. One of the things that I love is targeted cover letters, and when people have done their research and are targeted, when it's like a silly thing, but when cover letters are not just dear hiring manager, but it's dear Lauren or dear Jesse or dear Harley, I'm like, oh, okay, this person knows who they're applying to and for, and that sticks out. Like Melissa said, be your genuine, authentic self. Be professional. One of the things that I would say not to do is don't spam any recruiter or just anybody at the company, just because that tends to not have the desired results.
People don't like
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
These
follow
games
up
bad.
is good. Follow up is good, but there's a balance
There's a
there.
line.
So yeah.
Mike, anything to add? Advice to those looking for internships?
I don't really know how to get an internship. I never had one, but
LinkedIn is super great for
Oh,
this.
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean
Is
to
that
cut you
right?
off, but LinkedIn is great.
I don't LinkedIn. I should LinkedIn.
You should.
I've done all of my
I
jobs
don't
from
really wanna get
LinkedIn.
it.
So.
I got the majority. I found you on LinkedIn whenever
Yeah.
I was applying. I
Yep.
was like, what is this woman?
Chris found me on LinkedIn and hired me through LinkedIn. So
Yeah.
But I do have some general advice for people on interviews, especially
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, go for
Ask questions
Yeah.
about Schell Games.
yes.
It freaks me out when we interview people and they
They
ask
don't
if
have
they have any
questions,
questions.
yeah.
It's like, nope.
Yeah.
Because
Even if you've done your research. Yeah.
Yeah, like probe something that you couldn't figure out. Like
Right.
show that you're interested, and really I like candidates if I feel like they're interviewing us back, right? Like
Mhm.
they want to see if Schell Games is where they want to be. They're not-
Yeah. It's
they're
a
not just trying to
two-way.
get a job, right?
A two-way conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can tell when it's just one of many options, and there's not that engagement
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Because we're a unique place, so.
Yeah, it's like this is a weird place.
Yes, look, she went unique. Yeah, it's
It's the best kind of weird.
Yeah.
You're probably here for a reason.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Schell Games. It's a cool place to be.
Mm-hmm.
It is. So yeah, I'd second with the research. Second with ask questions. Yeah.
You were gonna say something?
Oh,
Go
no,
for it.
I was gonna say it's a happening place to be.
Thank you. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks. It is a happening.
Schell Games is a swinging place in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
It's all happening.
Come
Love
to
it.
Pittsburgh. Cool. Well, ladies and gents, so let me just rattle off some of our events. Schell Games is going to be at the Future of Immersive Leisure conference in Las Vegas, May 16th and 17th. Jesse is going to be one of the Fireside Chat keynote speakers, and we're also showing Jedi Challenges and I Expect You to Die on the Oculus Rift. So if you are in Vegas, come on out and say hi to us. May 24th is the open house, 6:30 to 8:30. You can go to remakelearningdays.org to search for us and sign up. I think I also have the link in our Facebook page. Speaking of Facebook, make sure you follow us on our social media. We're on YouTube, obviously, so subscribe so you get all of our updates whenever we upload promos, videos, and the dinner with the devs, our live events. We're also on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Reddit, and then some others soon. So get excited for that. We're super excited about how we're going to be supporting some of our other experiences. In June, we're going to be at the Games for Change. Exactly what that president's going to look like, we're still figuring that out, but that's June 28th through the 30th. And then Replay FX, some things are going on there. I'm going to wait for our partner to announce that, so we're going to follow their lead. So all of this, you can find it on our social networks, our newsletter. You can go to schellgames.com and join the mailing list at the bottom. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Thank you for asking wonderful questions for our interns. Guys, we're so sad you guys are leaving us in a couple weeks, but we're going to love and enjoy you guys while you're still here. So thank you very much for coming on Dinner with the Devs. Thank you for spending your time with us, Lauren. And Mike, as always, thank you, sir. And we will see you later. Thank you.